This is the reason why you always hear how women, of course, is a man's peace. You hear that a woman is a man's consolation, but you never really hear that for a female. You never really hear that for a woman. You never hear that a man is ours. You never hear that, because her true consolation is who? Always. Always. Her true consolation is with our accompaniment. We have to be walking with him in order to help him. So even Aretha, may Allah be pleased with her, knew that even though we love men, we love, of course, our better halves. We love our mates. But she knew that Dr. Feelgood was only good in the morning time. That's a temporary emotion. She knew that when trouble really, really came, who would be the bridge over troubled water? Because it doesn't matter how heavy he lifts or what he's capable of lifting, the only one that can bear the burden and the weight of what we have going on as women is Allah. That's the only bridge that will get us over our troubled water. So that's 75%. That's 75%. And we know, of course, in science, the 75% makes up the human body. 75%, of course, of the earth is based on water. 75% of our body is based in water. We know about this 75%, but it's bigger than just this 75% of it being just water. If it equates the 75%, we are water. We are the life-giving creatures. We are those things that help to sustain what Allah desires for us. The 75th surah, of course, is the resurrection in the Holy Quran, and it says in Surah 75, verse 4, yea, we are powerful to make his whole make. We are capable of creating the whole individual. But of course, we cannot do that alone. We have to have our helpmeet. We must have them, but what kind? Because it's very difficult to raise a righteous woman if she's in the care of an unrighteous man. So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan stated that this is extremely difficult for a woman to be who she needs to be if she is in charge of an unrighteous man. And he said the reason why the prophets work so hard with women, again, and he even used the word with, not for, is that we knew that we were extremely intricate in the production of the state and the space of evolution. Yes. The complete evolution of all mankind, not just us. But when you hear the words that when you teach a woman, of course, you teach a nation. And of course, when you teach a man, you teach an individual. That is the reason. Because we, as the mothers of civilization, once we are evolving to where it is that we need to be, everything else is evolving. Everything else is raised to an elevated place once you have the woman at her place. All praises due to Allah. That's why it's extremely important for us to make sure that we are not, as men, bogged down with toxic masculinity and the destructive egos that is truly devastating to a woman and who it is that she needs to be. The ego that stifles her out of the own fear because of course, what this world has made us into. We definitely understand, but we have to really, really, really fight against, as Sister Naja mentioned, all of the urges that are already present. We have to fight to win that mental battle because we cannot compete with your ego. We can't be free to be who it is that we need to be under the ego. And so once the ego is removed and we are free to be who it is that Allah desired for us to be, then the whole community rises. The whole community rises when we understand her level of worth. The whole family, which is the cornerstone, is elevated to a whole different state when she is elevated. So I pray that collectively we experience heaven and peace and true contentment of mind, but that comes from the unit. And of course, the root word of unit being one, that's when we're working together, when we're at our best, when we're unified. And I'm not talking about as a nation, I'm talking about first as the cornerstone, as the family. When we're unified, then there is peace in that first microcosm. And then, of course, we can go out and be peaceful everywhere else. But it first starts at home. It starts at home with us working together as a unit so that we can be the mothers, so that we can be the nurturers and the caregivers and those who give life. It says the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said in 1984 during a lecture that he entitled, "Heaven Lies at the Foot of Mother." He said, "I will give all that I have." Well, he said this is what we should say as men, that I will give all that I have and all within my power to produce a heavenly life for myself, my family, and the unborn generation yet to come. So as I close, I definitely would like to say thank you. Thank you so much to all of the men who are consistently striving to give us this, to provide this type of peace for us, to provide this type of environment for us, because it's not easy on both ends. We are here with you, and we are praying constantly for your success. And we are praying that we work together as a stronger unit, that we all may be evolving. And if you have a mother, that you're blessed to have a mother that is present, as they laid that beautiful sister yesterday to rest. If you have a mother that is present, make sure that we all take a moment to say, I love you and thank you. And if she's not present, still by Allah's grace, make sure that we honor her with our presence in the way that we live our lives. Because as a mother speaking, that's the greatest joy. Everyone has their different definitions of success, but that is the greatest joy, to honor your parents, especially your mother, with the way that you live your life, in a way that gives her honor, in a way that gives the family's legacy honor. That is the greatest joy. So please make sure that we honor our mothers and that we are constantly being grateful for the unit, so that we all may be evolving into the feminine expression of Allah. And I'd love to introduce to some and familiarize to those who have never seen this powerhouse Sister Sadiyah Karriem, one of my soul sisters. We developed a sacred partnership some years ago. And the sacred partnership is that we have to root for one another in order to make all of this a reality, because it's just not an easy battle. As Sister Naja, that is so profound. I have to keep going to it because I'm going to be thinking about that all day. The greatest battle is the one that's in our heads. That's the greatest battle. And during that, you need each other. We need peers. We need the sisterhood. You need the brotherhood. Just like as strong as we need air, we need one another. And so I would like to introduce to you all Sister Sadiyah Karriem. Let's bring her on with a round of applause. May Allah bless you. Love you so much.
Allahu Akbar. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who came in the person of Master Fard Muhammad. And I also bear witness that he rose up a man from his mind, from his spiritual loins, and he produced a man that produced a nation, unlike any nation on this planet Earth. And that is none other than the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I also bear witness that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad produced a man produced a child so in love with him that all he wants to do is reflect him and be a good child and be obedient and help propagate the faith of Islam and help to continue this beautiful nation of Islam. And I greet you in the words of peace of paradise of Assalamu alaikum. Oh my God, I am so full right now. To see our babies being a reflection of Allah. For Sister Wakiti talking about motherhood and what it means to be a mother. And I can honestly say that one of the roles in my life, that is the greatest role that I play. And probably the best, if someone could ask me and my children could ask me. And I don't take that role lightly. You know, I've always reminded myself that there was a prayer that I made to Allah when I was 11 years old, that he would bless me to be a mother. And I think I've talked about this before. You know, I remember reading the story of Hannah, and Hannah couldn't conceive. And Hannah's husband, you know, had another wife, and she was able to conceive baby after baby after baby. And she would go to the temple, and she would lay herself across the temple stairs and just lay prostrate and cry out to Allah and ask Allah to bless her with a child. And Allah heard her cries. And she heard him answering her, thinking it was a man there. And really it was a man who heard her cries. And she promised, and in her vow, she says that if you bless me with a child, then I promise you I will produce a child that would love you for the days of your life, for my life. And in that vow she made, as an 11-year-old, in-tuned little girl, I said to myself, I want to do the same thing. And it was a struggle to become a mother, so I thought. And see, a lot of times, brothers, and I'm talking to you as well, we think that motherhood only lies with the biological woman. But I want to disabuse you of that, because motherhood is a universal principle. Fatherhood is a universal principle. The masculine is a universal principle, and the feminine is a universal principle. So I don't want you to think that I'm here as a feminist. Those who are watching, the women in the Nation of Islam, we are not feminists at all. Brothers, we're not feminists. We love you. As you heard Sister Wakiti say, we love you because we know without you, we cannot be our full selves. And it's because the way that Allah made you allows us to be who we are. So again, we thank you, brothers. Now, you know, charity starts at home. And so we're going to always start with the black woman. These teachings are universal teachings. They're good for the white woman. They're good for any color woman. But the original woman, that's where we start. Why do we start with the original woman first? Because she is the woman that has been rejected all over the planet Earth. We have lost the knowledge of ourselves, and we are living a beast life. And so we must be re-educated, reformed, retransformed. And there has to be a reformation. That's why the teachings is with, 75% of it is with the woman. That's a heavy weight. That's a heavy weight. Now, when we talk about feminism, the feminist movement was never made for the black woman. If you look at the history of the feminist movement, it dealt with the white woman wanting to defeat the patriarchal system of the white man. She wanted to get out the house. So while she was out there marching and fighting to get out the house, who was in her house? It was the black woman taking care of her household. It was the black woman taking care of her man. It was the black woman suckling her children from the breasts when she couldn't suckle her own children. She couldn't take care of her own children. She couldn't take care of her own man. So the feminist movement had nothing to do with the black woman. And if we fast forward this feminist movement, we see that the feminist movement back in the 60s and the 70s, was instigated by a CIA agent. And it was set up to be divisive against the black woman and the black man. And if you look at the deterioration of the black family, then you can start it off with the feminist movement. The Monahan report talked about the degradation of the black family. And so when you have women like Gloria Steinem, who infiltrated the college campuses and portrayed herself as an activist, and when she was able to snake her way into the women's movement, and she took the face of a black woman, she created a magazine in which she took the black woman as the face, but behind that magazine, she had all vile manners of things to say about the black man. This is the history. You can go look this up yourself. So when we talk about, starting at home and starting with the black woman, there has been a systematic plan to divide and conquer the black man and the black woman. So the feminist movement has never done anything for the black woman. Because when you look at the state of the black woman, 75%, and we talk about that 75%, Sister Waikiki, is head up by the black woman. Where are the men? It was set up that way. Now, I know you're saying if we look at social media, if we look at the current state of women, period, we see that women are making progress. Can we agree on that? We saw that 100 women were elected to Congress, right? We saw that about 12 women were elected to the Senate. Here in Harris County alone, we saw so many black women on judicial benches. And that's a phenomenal thing to see the rise of the woman and the rise of the black woman. But then they're not telling you about the statistics where the imprisonment of African American women far exceeds that of white women. And we're creeping up there with black men. They're not talking to you about the prison, the pipeline from the woman's womb to the prison. They're not talking about that. On average, you hear about the pay inequality. But no one's talking about the black woman's pay inequality. Because when a white man makes $1, the black woman makes 68 cents from that dollar. And the white woman, she may make 86 cents from that dollar. When we talk about the health of the black women are dying far more at a higher rate than white women from cancer, breast cancer. Now, true that the white women and black women, we may have the same amount of rate of having the cancer. But why are we dying the most? Why? Let's talk about our children and our little girls and our women in the human trafficking. In the United States alone, we have over 300,000 children and girls and women who are trafficked all over the world. This industry has been estimated to have at least about $13 trillion in it. Modern day slavery, human trafficking, and then let's talk about sex trafficking. It's the little black girls that we don't get reported. There's nothing on the news when we are missing. But we are missing at the highest rate. No one's talking about the black woman. Not in the media, except for one person. And that is none other than Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. If you know anything about this black man, you know that he has taken on the mantle of his teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And that manner is uplifting the black women. If you go on YouTube, and you talked about YouTube, Sister Naja, and how many videos are uploaded, just Google Farrakhan and the black woman, and you'll be amazed at how many videos you see of him uplifting, educating us, and informing us about the black woman. So we have to start with the black woman. So today's topic is, and I know this is somber. It feels somber, but it's a beautiful thing. And it's a weighty subject, and when we come before the men and women of God, especially when you're talking about the woman, you can't take her lightly. She's not a side piece. She's not a rib. She wasn't taken from man from the side, like our Christian brothers and sisters would believe. So who is the black woman? And so we have to start with creation. We got to start there. And so when we talk about the oneness of God, next slide, please, and how we are made in his image and in his likeness. Oh, I said I was going to put this at the front. The last time I had this at the end, and I don't think we were able to get there. But if you don't have these books, I implore you, if you know, we talk about the teachings all the time, the teachings. These are the teachings right here, codified. And so everything we're telling you is nothing that we're creating, we're making up on our own. As I always say, I am nothing but a puppet. And so if you're interested more in what we're talking about, and you're not able to make it to the mosque, because the minister said that, you know, the mosque is not just the four walls. Islam is just not what we say, is how we live. But we have to have the revelation of God. And so I'm telling you, get this information, and the knowledge that you have will catapult you exponentially. Y'all bear witness to that. All right, praise be to Allah. Next slide, finalcall.com. All right. So when we talk about creation, we have to start at the beginning. And in the Bible, and I'll start with the Bible because most of us know the Bible. And in the Bible, in Genesis, it says, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created him. What does it say? Male and female created them. It's plain. Next slide. So then we go to the holy book of the Muslims. And it just says the same thing in a different way. And so a lot of people think that, you know, to listen to a Muslim is blasphemy. But we have been taught to be a good Christian is to be a good Muslim. And to be a good Muslim is to be a good Christian. And all a Muslim is one who submits their will to God. And all a good Christian is one who follows the teaching of Christ. And Christ's teaching is what? To submit to God. So we have universal teachings. So there's more that bring us together than it separates us. And the Holy Quran says, oh, people, keep your duty to your Lord who created you from a single being and created its mate of the same kind and spread from these too many men and women. And keep your duty to Allah, by whom you demand one of another your rights and to the ties of relationship. Surely Allah is ever a watcher over you. So he says, he created you from a single being. And then in some translations, it says he created you from a single essence. So now we got to define the word being, single being, and essence, so we can get a proper understanding what this scripture really means. Next slide, please. Essence. It's the intrinsic nature or indispensable quality of something, especially something abstract that determines its character. So it's intrinsic in the nature. It's that nature. You cannot separate it. You can't. And then it's the indispensable. Again, you can't throw it away. You can't get rid of it. That's right. So when we talk about the single being, well, single means only one. And the being is the nature or the essence of a person. It's that thing that calls you into existence. So when he says he made you from a single being, and he says he made you from the essence of what? The single being of what? The single being of God himself. Himself. So you are from God himself. Sisters, you are from God himself. And guess what? You can't separate the two. That's right. That's right. So when the feminist movement came in to try to be divisive with the black man and the black woman, we didn't know that we couldn't be separated. And we can go back to slavery where they were separating the families. They would tear the mothers from their children. They would take away the husbands from their wives because they knew then that the family was the cornerstone and that when we were united, we were more powerful. And even during the Willie Lynch eras where they would try to demoralize the black man and break the black man down. And what they would do, they would, torture the black man in front of the woman or the mother. And the mother being the type of person that she is, the woman being the type of person that she is, her nature is to want you to not have pain. And so when she saw that what they were doing to you, black man, was causing pain, then she would do anything for you to eliminate that pain. So the black woman, based on environment, has been made other than herself. And we thank Allah that he came in the person of Master Fard Muhammad, who came so that we can know ourselves again. He came by himself 9,000 miles in the night like a thief, in and out, teaching the black man and the black woman. And he chose what they call Black Bottom, the worst part of North America. He called North America the wilderness. But see, when you're dealing with the wilderness, you're dealing with raw material. You can come in. It's untouched. Although we've been touched by the enemy, the slave master. But when God comes in and he touches you all over again, he makes you into a new being. And that being that he makes you into is none other than himself. And so we thank Allah for that. Next slide. Now, again, in the Holy Quran, he says he created you from a single being, then it's made of the same kind. So we talk about the battle of the sexes. It's always the battle of the sexes. When we go home, brothers and sisters, and let's just be real, we have, well, what am I doing? You're not doing this. Well, I'm doing this. And we have a lot of that in our household because we're so unbalanced in our roles and in our nature. But he made us of the same kind. So if we understood what our natures are and what the essence of who we really are and our purpose, then we'll be able to live with peace and quiet of mind. And here it says, and he sent down for you 8 of the cattle in pairs. He creates you in the wombs of your mothers, creation after creation, in triple darkness. That is Allah, your Lord. His is the kingdom. There is no God but he. How are you then turned away? How many of you turned away from the black woman? Let's be real. We upset at Serena because she turned away from the black man. But why did she turn away from the black man? Because when Serena first came out, there were so many negative comments about her beauty. There were so many negative comments about her shape and the fullness of who she is. And then she chose a white man because he wanted to conquer her. But then you flip the script and we see Kim Kardashian. She has the same fake attributes that our dear beautiful sister Serena has. But Kim Kardashian is glorified as the standard.
Look at that. Look at that.
And then we wonder why we're struggling between the sexes. We wonder why our beautiful women don't feel beautiful about themselves. Or the black man is trying to find that white meat. What they say, the darker the berry, the sweeter the juice. That's real. If you look in the animal kingdom, anytime you have something that's white or albino, we know it's grafted. And it's the weaker genes, the recessive genes. But when we look at the black woman, she's degraded and she's rejected. And her divinity is rejected. Not only is she physically rejected, but her mental aspect is rejected. And spiritually, who she is in the house is rejected. And see, now, black men, we don't fault you for rejecting us. After you've heard the truth, then the responsibility is on you. That's right. And so today, we're not here to beat up on the black man. This teaching is just for you. Because just as this woman here can have feminine-like qualities, and so and we're going to go into the word feminine and masculine, because we have a mature understanding of what feminine and masculine is. But when we understand what feminine and masculine is, and your whole makeup, that X chromosome you have, that came from your mama. Now, and most of the genes that you carry biologically, that came from your mama. Now, y'all are able to produce both male and female, which is powerful in itself. Next slide, please. So, sisters, to have the knowledge of yourself is to have the knowledge of God. Now, you'll forever hear in the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And when you hear the Minister Louis Farrakhan talk, we do not believe in a mystery God.
That's it. That's it.
It's just simple as that. It's plain. You know, when we first come into the teachings, we hear that. And as, you know, scientists and experimenters, we're curious to know. We trust and believe that the black man is God. Right. We heard our beautiful sister ask, who is the original man? Right? But do we believe that the original man is God? In our supreme wisdom, and in order to get one of these books, and in order to know more about, you know, I'm going to do a bunch of commercials in between. So in order to know more about the supreme wisdom, and I'm just giving you a surface taste of what this supreme wisdom is about. Because as a new believer coming into the Nation of Islam, you will get the supreme wisdom. And this book is so small, right? But it is so, all my law books can't even compare to what's in this book. And that is the truth. But we were given the supreme wisdom. And in the supreme wisdom, there are problems and there are questions and there are answers. And we can take it on the physical, we can take it on the mental, or we can take it on the spiritual. And it depends on your development on your course, because when you become a baby, you don't think as a baby. You don't eat the same foods as a baby. Is that right? Because when you was a baby, what? You drank milk. But as you became a man, right? And the only way to become a man is that you have to feed on the food of God. Because if you're not eating, then you're starving to death. And you'll never be able to become a man. So you have to continuously feed on the word of God. And then you can still be a man, but what type of man are you going to be? What type of woman are you going to be? So our development is based on our desire and our will to want to be connected with Allah. So in Supreme Wisdom, Lost Found Muslim lesson number 2, it says, who is that mystery God? And the answer that there is not a mystery God. There is not a mystery God. The Son of Man has searched for that mystery God for trillions of years and was unable to find a mystery God. So they have agreed that the only God is the Son of Man. So they lose no time searching for that does not exist. We're not going to try to get you to prove that God does not exist as a man in man form. We don't have that kind of time. So we spend our time proving that you are a God and you were made in his essence and his likeness and in his being. That's right. And so that's what we're talking about on today. Next slide. Now the commercial. If you don't have it, get it. That's right. These are the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He sat with God himself. So if a man tells you that he sat with God himself and he's giving you some knowledge, do you not want to sit at the feet of that man? Because I know I do. Just the words, the message to the black man or supreme wisdom, my ear is perked up. I want to know. Don't you? Now, he said God is man, and we just cannot make him other than man, lest we make him an inferior one. For man's intelligence has not equal other than man. His wisdom is infinite, capable of accomplishing anything that his brain can conceive. A spirit is subject to us and not we to the spirit. So all of that spookism, ghosts, Let's disabuse ourselves of that. Because everything that you see around here, every material thing, every physical thing that you see came from the mind of man. Some minds more progressed and developed than others, more mature than others, and some minds inferior. And I tell people all the time, thank you, sis, look at the condition of your life. Look at your surroundings. Go home and see what your conditions are. And that will tell you what came out of your mind, God. And if you're living in chaos, then there's room for improvement. Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that man cannot attain his full wisdom without the woman. You just can't. Because if the teaching is with the woman, you're missing something. You cannot, if we're one, and 75% of that teaching is gone, and we have a whole pie, and 75% of that teaching is not there. Are we missing something? Are we operating in a deficit? We're not even 50-50. So when you reject the divinity of the woman, then you're rejecting yourself and you're operating at a negative. So we know that Allah is one. And we say this in our prayer all the time. That we don't believe in the Holy Trinity. The Father, Son, the Holy Ghost. He's one. He doesn't have a son outside of himself. He begets not, nor is he begotten, and there is none like him. So we believe in the unity of that. Now, when we talk about creation, how did God make himself? So we know that God is a man, right? We're tracking on that, right? We following. So God is a man, and Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that when God created himself, he created himself in triple darkness. Now, did we not just see a scripture, a surah, talking about the mother creating in triple darkness? So Allah was creating himself in triple darkness. So I want you to do a really quick, it'll take 5 seconds. I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to search for a light. I want everybody to close your eyes just for a moment and search, except for those on post. That's right, because we believe in security. And search for that light. Search for a light. All right. Were you able to see the light? Some were able to see. Some were not able to see. All that means is that we need to develop our God powers. Because that's how God created himself. He created himself in triple darkness in the universe. He didn't have a mother. He didn't have a father. It took him trillions of years to create himself. And it was a painful process. Can you imagine? For 5 seconds, you couldn't even see the light. But imagine doing this for trillions and trillions of years, looking for a light. But before there was light, there was woman. Before there was light, there was woman. You can't even try to conceive a light in 5 seconds, but he was able to co-create and make a woman. His first creation, before the sun. And if you study the teachings, you know that Master Farad Muhammad's scope of his teachings were based on astronomy and mathematics. So to ignore astronomy and to ignore mathematics is to ignore who you are as a being and the essence of who you are. Because the woman was made like the universe. See, the sun in Arabic, it has the she article attached to it. The planets, it's a she. The universe, it's a she. We're talking about the feminine now. It's a she. And then the sun, what does the sun do? It gives off light, and then everything else rotates around it. Is that right? And without the sun, there'll be no life. So we've heard many names of the black woman, right? We've heard co-producers with Allah, co-creators with Allah, life givers. What are some other names that the black woman has been given? And I'm talking about the good black names, right? Twin with God, But there's no name more superior than just God. We don't have to put anything else in front of it because she is that, just God. And so when he was creating, that was his first creation. So he created her at the desire of himself because he really doesn't need a helpmeet. He doesn't. But because of all of that pain to try to bring this world into existence and himself into existence, he needed someone to give him some solace and some consolement, right? And some comfort and some peace of mind. So sisters, we got to remember that why were we created? We were created at his desire to bring that peace of mind, to bring that consolement and that comfort. And so when we are in our nature and in our role and we remember why were we created, then we can operate as the gods that we are. And brothers, if you tap into the gods that we are, you can get that consolement, that comfort, that peace, that quiet of mind. Don't reject her divinity, because when you reject her divinity, you're cutting off your arm and your legs. Mother Tanetta, a brilliant scholar, musician, and wife of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, says, and I'll read this. She says, I recall that in the 1970s, he began to tell some of his laborers many experiences he had while he was being taught by Master W. Fard Muhammad in the 1930s. She says, upon one of those occasions, he asked the Savior to teach him about the sun. He stated that to his surprise, the Master, he became agitated and angry and told him that if he were to question him again about the sun, he would not return to teach him anymore, at which point he departed for a short while. Wow. Can you imagine? Your teacher telling you you can't learn. Your God, you ask him a question. Well, why is this, God? Or why is this, mama? Or why is this, daddy? And they tell you, no, you can't understand that. You can't get that information. And they walk away. But you being the loving and studious student that you are, you really want to know because you want to take that information and bring it further. So can you imagine what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was feeling when he wanted to know about the sun and his teacher told him, no? But it doesn't end there. So the master returned. Because he's such a loving master. He's such a loving God. And he never wants to leave his students and his children in discombobulation and ignorant. So the master returned and began teaching him something about the sun, but only a little. And so I asked the question, why only a little? He was first angry about just even knowing about the sun. And then he would only give them a little bit. And sometimes as parents, we can't give our children everything because we don't know how to handle the capacity of having too much stuff. I have a couple of daughters who, we are so blessed and people like to give us stuff, but they don't know how to handle stuff. So they stuff stuff in the closet. They stuff stuff in the drawers. They step on stuff. They destroy stuff. Because they don't have a proper understanding or don't know what to do with the stuff. So sometimes knowledge is like that. We got to get things at a gradient, a little bit at a time. It's like this supreme wisdom. We get a little bit of milk, and then when we're ready for that next development, then we'll get the next thing because then we'll know what to do with it. But this topic of the sun, it had to be a heavy and a weighty topic about the sun because the woman is equated to the sun. Mother Tanetta goes on to say that the messenger wanted her to teach on the sun. She didn't know if it was the son of man or the S-U-N. But is there a difference?
Good question.
So I want to go into what feminine and masculine is, and kind of give us a better understanding of what feminine and masculine is. How many of us think that feminine and masculine deals with just being a man or a woman? What? Just true. I just want to take a poll. Praise be to Allah for your honesty. because I thought it was just about a man or a woman. And we misunderstand what gender is. See, gender is a state of being male or female, typically used with reference to social and cultural differences rather than biological ones. So gender is manifested in everything. So you know that Adam, do you know that Adam, there's a masculine and a feminine part of the atom? The basic component of every matter, every living thing, the atom itself has a masculine and feminine aspect about it. Okay, how about a battery? You got the positive and the negative. And so we typically say that the negative is the feminine aspect because she's receiving. And the positive is that negative, the positive is the masculine aspect, which is projecting the energy and the force. And so as the feminine, we consume that energy and we transmute it. We make it into something that is usable or something that is different and useful, right? So you plant a seed, you get a crop, right? So the brother, and we're taught that the man is, we call him a husband. The woman is like the garden, the soil. And so when you plant that seed in an expectation that that soil is fertile and will bring and produce something. That's masculine and feminine at work.
Beautiful teaching.
And so a woman, you'll give her a seed. And the Holy Quran talks about this. He calls it worthless water. Worthless. And you give us something that's worthless, and we will produce a Jesus or a Moses or Abraham and a God. So we have to understand the difference between masculine and feminine. So the word gender is derived from the Latin word meaning to beget, to procreate, to generate, to create, to produce. So you have to look at it at a broader sense. Masculine and feminine. Now we see the perfect representation of femininity and feminism in the black woman. But again, brothers, you have that X chromosome. So in you is also the feminine side of you. So the brothers, and we'll go into, next slide, please. We can go into some of the characteristics of the masculine and the feminine. And going into those characteristics, again, Master Farad Muhammad, his teaching, his scope of his teaching was astronomy. And we know that, God created himself in triple darkness. The universe was created in triple darkness, and we were his first creation. So do you know that scientists are bearing witness that 97% of our makeup is composed of stardust? It's only and that's a recent study. 150,000 stars, the dust from stars in the Milky Way galaxy that they were able to collect. And in that, the components of it, and I kind of laid that out, the components of it make us. So it only bears witness that he created himself out of triple darkness. Wow. With the darkness of matter in the universe. And the universe is a she. Because the universe is what? It's ever expanding. And I'll joke with my husband right now. I don't know where he is. But I always tell him, men, y'all, we got to cut this out. We got to cut that out. Let's economize. And I'm like, no, baby, let's expand. Let's expand. Let's not constrict. Tell me what you need. Whatever it is you think that we have lack of, and I do this all the time, and he could bear witness. Whatever there is lack of, tell me what it is, and I'll help you get it. And then I don't say that to be impressive. I say that to impress upon you the nature of the woman. She give you a seed. You give her a seed, she gives you a baby. You give her a house, she gives you a home. And in that home, you have peace of mind. You have quiet. You got your man cave. She lets you have, right? She has the kitchen. Where's her laboratory? To sustain you. But and she'll take it. Anything you give her, she will flip, she will multiply, she will expand, whatever it is. Don't you want somebody like that? But in return, the nature of the man is to do what? It's to protect and maintain us. Because as women, our mind, if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing and giving you that quiet of mind and we're consoling you and we're comforting you, our mind cannot grasp being able to maintain you and sustain you. It becomes unbalanced because biologically and mentally and spiritually, we're not just wired that way. So just like you can give us a seed and we'll give you a baby bag, you can give us a house and we'll give you a home. You give us some stuff, we'll expand that too. And you wonder, yeah, it took y'all a minute. I'm trying to be feminine up here. So you wonder why you got so much crap in your life. Then are you in your nature? Because it's in her nature to want to give you that consolement and that peace. Next slide, please. Now, when we talk about the part of the masculine principle, it seems to be that of directing a certain inherent energy towards the female. That's why we sit like this, because we are naturally inclined to each other. It's not some spookism or some mystery. We love the black man and the black man loves the woman. But when you need to hear the revelation of God, your mind needs to be focused here, not next to your boo, smelling up on her. But the male is naturally inclined to the feminine. And so, but the feminine principle is the one always doing the active creative work. And this is in all planes. So the animal life, the fungi life, bacteria, plant life, all living organisms, even in crystals, you see the positive and the negative. You see the masculine and the feminine. You see the gender. And it's just not about sex. Because the sexual organs are just nothing but a manifestation of the masculine and the feminine. But then each one can operate on its own. I forgot the name of this term, and I was listening to a gynecologist who says that in medical school, there's a course that they only touch on just very briefly, but it talks about the woman being able to produce herself without having a man involved or a male involved. Yes, it's an actual thing. You don't see it in human beings as much or at all anymore. But what you do see it is in fish life. You see it in reptile life. You see it in plant life. That the female, the ovum, the egg can reproduce itself and clone itself. But when it clones itself, it's not cloning a male part of itself. And so there's been studies where it was shown that, there was spontaneous cloning of the woman. And we talk about the Virgin Mary. Now, we know we don't believe in the Virgin Mary. We believe that, that the natural act created between Mary. But there's a concept where the woman, and I want to be correct in this because I don't want to give you misinformation. But you've heard stories where the woman had these tumors, these calcified tumors, and when they opened up these tumors, they saw teeth and hair and bones in her womb. And then they studied the DNA of it, and it was the exact replica DNA of the mother. There was no male component parts. But as evolution, and especially with animal life and insect life, it benefits none to have all of these women running around, all of these females running around, all the feminine running around, because it dies out. It becomes extinct. I was reading about a certain insect, and in the Holy Quran, it named after the ant, the bee, spider. So we study the life of the insects. And in this insects, the females can reproduce themselves. However, they stopped reproducing themselves because they were dying out. And so the natural inclination was to always expand for the woman. So we could say we don't need a man all day long, but we always trying to get a man. What we don't want is the degradation, the abuse from the man. But it is natural for us to want a man. So now when we look at the word feminine, it encompasses the number 9 and man. And the Hebrew, female is nekeba, which means that which is enveloped, not in evidence, unseen, and veiled. Enveloped, unseen, and veiled. That's how we need to be, sisters. And when we're enveloped in Allah, and we're unseen by the world, and we're veiled off, because the only way to come through us is to come through God. That's right. That's right. That's right. Then we're living to our higher purpose and our calling. But then the masculine, the evidence of existence, that which is outly visible. When you see a man, you know a man when he come in a room, because you can't help but to notice him. He gonna have that black man walk. He gonna let it be known that he's there. And if there's another alpha male around there, they're gonna be trying to position and jockey for position, especially if they fighting for you. Because he wants you to know that he's in existence. But you're enveloped in Allah. And he can't come to you unless he goes through Allah. Are y'all with me? Praise be to Allah. And so, the original Hebrew and Aramaic language does not describe man as an individual. So we go to the Bible, and we're breaking that word down, and the hermeneutics of the Bible. And in this word, it doesn't describe man as an individual. It is a sacred word used by the Egyptian priest, which, with the first letter meaning the hidden power within. We're talking about man now. And the root meaning actively absorbing that which is similar. So it only bears witness to the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad when he says man is God and has the capacity to be one with God. You have all that you need to be a God. And it is hidden in you. And you don't have to ask permission from somebody else to get that power that you already have in you innately. And sisters, you either. Because you are the womb man of God. See, the only difference is you have a womb. And when you look at the pyramids, or any triangle pyramid, you'll see that the pyramid was created to look like a womb, and it harnesses the energy on the inside. And when you harness the energy on the inside, it's like giving birth to a child. Are y'all with me? Because I know there's some high science. I just want to make sure we're tracking. Okay. All right. So let's look at some of the qualities of the masculine and the feminine. Now, the left side of the brain, we're told that it's the masculine side. But we both got a left and a right side, right? So we both have masculine and feminine qualities to ourselves. But without one, if we had one and we didn't have the other, there would be something wrong with us. People would say that we're deformed, we're handicapped, we have a disability. But when and then sometimes we're unbalanced, right? And you can tell somebody who's operating in the left side of their brain more than they're operating in the right side of their brain, and vice versa. You know these individuals when you see them. You may not be able to pinpoint what's going on, but we know that their brain is not balanced. And so today we're talking about getting that balance. So on the left side of the brain, we see the differentiating, right? We're separating. Individual. Man don't need to be in groups. We like our groups. As women, we have to be collective. Is that right? They have the external focus. They this way, but we can multitask. Is that right? We can do a million things at the same time. We got our sewing project going on. We going to school. We teaching. We cooking. We cleaning. Taking care of our husbands. Right? But can y'all do that? But it's okay. It's okay, but because that's not how you were made. It's not a competition. Because when you can externally focus, that it frees us up to expand and create. So you're result oriented. You just want to get it done. Give me the bottom line. No, we like, well, what about her feelings? No, we got to use, good decorum. We have to have etiquette. We got, sister blow up. Sister, what's going on? Y'all don't care about that. Y'all cuss each other out and keep it moving. Not us. We'll hold on to it. And then we wonder why we have issues with the communication, because we don't understand the process. It's the process. So you're more action oriented. Let's get it done. You tell us what needs to be done, and we do the planning. Give me your vision. Give it to us. And guess what? We'll make it come to life. I tell anybody that works, just tell me what you want, what you need. And I know I'm feminine to the heart. Some people say that I may be masculine. I'm direct, but the feminine in me is much stronger than my masculine. Because I want to please. I'm a manifester. And I know that innately. Tell me I can't do something. Tell me I can't do something. And that do something I will make happen. And isn't that, black women, we can take nothing and make something? Black men, we know we can analyze to paralysis, right? Was it paralysis by analysis? But we ready to move out. Come on, let's do it. We already have the plan together. You're like, hold on. I was just thinking about it. Right? And so the man, the left side, the masculine, let me not say the man, but the masculine, he just uses his head. Everything is scientific, and everything is analytical. But we have to feel a certain way. I'm not feeling that. It don't sit right with my spirit. I can't go there because it just don't feel right. That's intelligence. And then the emotional aspect of us. We're able to tune into your emotions. And then when we know where you are and know how you're feeling, you having a good day, you come into our atmosphere not having a good day. Well, we sense it immediately. Immediately. That's why we know how to go into action and give you the peace and consolement. That's right. And so men, y'all are like direct. Just get to the point. Let's go straight. But women, we all over the place. Have a conversation with us. We could start with A. We talked about Z, B, E, and F, and then we went to R and S, and y'all like, I'm confused. Am I bearing witness? Yes, ma'am. Okay. And y'all about cause and effect. Is this going to make this happen? Okay, let's do it. We don't care about all that. What's the relationship? How does it affect everyone in the process? Is everybody going to be all right? Yesterday, one of the little sisters was here, and she was dropped off. And it wasn't my child. But I walked out the door, and something said, let me go look for that little girl to make sure she left. I couldn't leave some other sister's child left alone to go run home, do what I needed to do. Because that relationship is always lingering in the back of our mind. When y'all not doing right, we are a reflection of what's going on with y'all. I tell people, if I'm good until you come for me. And it's not that I'm confrontational, but I'm only reflecting what you give back to me. We're empathetic. We feel you. That's real. That's real. But we don't just have that quality. Because sisters, be with a man and you trying to talk to your husband and he just staring at you without a clue. You bawling, you crying your eyes out. And he doesn't give you any empathy or love and say, baby, you know what? He may not know what to do, but he'll do something and fumble in the process. But when you don't have a man who's able to give you that empathy and that compassion, does it set right with your spirit? Because then you start saying, well, look what I did for you and all the love that I gave for you. And it's not reciprocal. We're not talking about the battle of the sexes. We're talking about an exchange. Let me see, what time is it? Okay. Next slide, please. So we talked about the qualities of male and female. And can we agree that both man and woman possess these qualities? And they possess the qualities because of the nature of how we were made, the way our brains were made. Now, society in certain areas has developed and built one part of the brain stronger than the other. But, the messenger came so that we may have life and have it more abundantly and come to the knowledge of who we are. And that's why we don't call this a sermon. We don't preach. We call this a lecture, and we teach. We don't have a choir. We don't have a bunch of music. Because although, for me, learning is entertaining. This is edutainment. So that we can cut away all the frills and get right to who we are and what we need. Next slide, please. And so some more functions of the brain. And I'm pausing because given the opportunity for Facebook to see this slide. Yes, sir. Oh, okay. So next, please. So we talked about the feminine and the masculine, and we know that the feminine and the masculine is in both male and female. We know biologically you possess some feminine genes because you got them from your mother. Your DNA, you got them from your mother. Just recently, I took a DNA test because I was curious to know what my DNA makeup was as far as where my people were from. And I think a lot that I did it because I know that I got some black blood in me, y'all. No, I'm just teasing. I know I did. But I just wanted to know where my people were from. Whether it was on the Caucasian side, because it's obvious that I have some Caucasian in me, and a lot of us do because, our mothers were raped. My mother, her people came from France, and so we know the French were colonizers just as well as the people from Europe, the English. So, and my daddy's from Louisiana. So although he may look like a black man, part of him has a lot of European traits as well. And I have those genes. And in those genes is certain DNA. And the genes is certain intelligence that your body will respond to. Some people are more susceptible to certain diseases. Some people are skinny. Some people, carry weight because of what region they're from. My nose is not as broad as some other people because the black man's nose that are broad, they were taken in and, cooling down that hot air, as opposed to the Caucasian's nose are much smaller because, they wanted to warm up the air. So we were biologically made a certain way based on our environment. But we have what you call epigenetics. And epigenetics, we can change our genes based on our environment. And so with these teachings that we have, education is one of the ways that we can change our genes just by the way we think. When we have a new thought process, and we have how to give birth to a God, sisters. When we learn and we have the knowledge how to create a child from the womb, before the seed even plants in the physical womb. That seed is planted in our mental womb. And we talk about the triple darkness. And so we can create and recreate and regenerate those genes before we actually conceive physically and change the whole course of history because of that. We can do that. And it's through the black woman. It is through the black woman that we will see a whole new civilization. That's why we have to start with her mind first. Not her body, but her mind. She has to be rightly guided. And she, as Sister Waikiki said, she's not man's woman. Man didn't create her. God created her. She was the second self of him. Because she is the bridge that is going to bring you to God. So when you talk about the left and the right hemisphere of the brain, you have what you call the corpus callosum that brings that together. And they said that is the bridge to God. Scientists will say that when those two hemispheres come together. And the word priestess, all it means is the bridge to God. So when you call a woman a priestess, she's doing nothing but connecting you to the God that is within. That's right. To the God that is within. So when Allah created woman, he created her with a purpose, which is to comfort, console, to give peace and easement of mind. But brothers, you were also made to produce. You have to produce. Because you have a job with Allah. You standing in the place of God. And you have a mission. And he's put revelation on your heart. And the reason why when you look at the symbol of a man and a woman, the woman has the circle with the cross. But the man has the arrow. Because he has to go out. He has to be fruitful and multiply. He has to have dominion and subdue. And we take what you give us and we expand it. So it's a partnership. Now, Allah, he doesn't need help from us. Sisters, he doesn't need help from us. But we want to be your helpers and your mission with Allah. And we don't want a man that's not producing. Do y'all want a man that's not producing? And you don't want a woman that's not helping. You can't do nothing with that. We have a class that's set up for us. MGT class. MGT stands for Muslim Girl Training and General Civilization class. And in that, we have 7 units. Right now, we're learning how to sew. But it's not the physical act of sewing. Last year, we learned how to can. We learned how to cook. We learned how to make bean soup. We learned how to take care of our husbands. And when we learn how to take care of our husbands, it's really learning about who we are and how we're connected with God. And when we connect ourselves with Allah, then taking care of you is easy. Because we're in our true selves and our true nature. But see, the class wasn't set up so that we can just have some skills. And the class was preparing us to allow Allah to use us to help bring in a new civilization. Praise be to Allah. Because brothers, how can you be the vicegerent of Allah if you are not physically well, if you're sick and diseased, if your children are rebellious? Because your children are your legacy. Your children are a reflection of you. And if we're not rightly guiding our children, then how can we reproduce you? Because that's what we do. Are we reproducing to kill right off? It's just those insects reproduce themselves, but then the lineage doesn't go on. And then we're walking around here half butt naked, right? And you're trying to protect us, but you can't protect us or protect what you can't control. Not that we need to be controlled, but we've been made other than ourselves. So we're coming to the class of God to be retrained. And we're girls because God says that we got to be as children coming into the kingdom. We have to be children. We have to be girls in order for him to do something with us. And including you, brothers, you have to come to him as a child. You can't come to him as if you know everything. Although some of our children think they do. But as a child who's willing to learn and to grow and to expand. That's why the class was created for us. Another commercial. So sisters, if you want to be in the class of God, then come join on with the Nation of Islam and come join on with your beautiful sisters, the MGT. So I want to go into this slide right here. See how much time I got. And we talked about the nature of the woman. We talked about the nature of the man. We talked about the difference in masculinity and femininity. And we know that the man can have physical attributes as well as masculine attributes. We know that there has to be a balance. Y'all tracking? We know that there is no separation, that we all come from Allah. We know that he was created in triple darkness. We know that the woman is the second self of God. We know these things. We know that man is God and God is man. And we know that man came through woman. And so she can't be nothing but God. if you call yourself a God. And we know that a God is one who has what? Power and force. We say be and it is. We're not looking to some mystery God for somebody to do for us. And brothers, when you're producing and when you're protecting and when you're sustaining and maintaining, then we'll expand your territory. Because that's what the universe does. It never stops expanding. Never. The scientists can tell you. They only have equipment just for the little minute that they can see. But they know that the universe is expanding. Stars are exploding and recreating itself. That we are made in the image, with the material of the stars. So, with that understanding of masculine and feminine, we've also learned that Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us that the prophets come in the guise of a woman, the feminine characteristics of a woman. Now, that doesn't say that he is a woman or he's a homosexual because, we don't turn away anybody who wants to come into the mosque that's a homosexual. But you can come as you are, but you can't stay as you are. Okay. And then we're going to teach you why you're a homosexual. Right. Because we know that is a crafty, wicked Satan who's created it that way because you are not your natural self. Again, the class is so important because we are taught how to create, how to make food, how to grow food so that we can escape the wiles of the enemy. You smoking marijuana. And now all of a sudden you see marijuana used to be illegal. But now everybody's passing referendums to grow marijuana. First it was you had to have a medical license. Now you don't. You can carry some for recreational purposes. Now in the state of Texas, we're on our way there, but we're not there yet. But why? Have you asked the question why? Good question. Why, brother? Our beautiful brother, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, has a book who goes into the science and the history in a systematic way that they have been trying to feminize biologically and hormonally the black man. And when you have emotions, sisters, your hormones, chemistry is created, right? And so your body is created with a certain hormone when you get angry, when you're in love. When you're at peace, your body creates certain hormones. Well, what the enemy has done is he's manipulated your hormones to create these hormones to make you over feminine. Brothers. So you don't know how to deal with the black woman because she can't respond to a homosexual. She can't respond to a punctified man. She can't. There's something about the God in a man. Am I right, sisters? Yes, when you see the God in a man, it is very attractive. In any man. I remember when I was first coming into the mosque, the first time I ever heard a brother call me queen. I was like, oh, okay. Just being honest. Because no one referred to me as a queen. And when you meet an FOI, you see nothing but the God in that man. Now, we all have fallen short of the glory of God. And our righteousness is as filthy rags. Don't get it twisted. We're in the process. But we're in the process in this class so that we can wear our white garments. And I'm not talking about the one that I have on right now. That we can come before the face of Allah and be who we are. But we're in the process of getting rid of all the muck and the mire. Because that's where we are. We can't tap into our God power because we are so filled with the dirt that has been put on top of us, and the mud that's been put on top of us. But you know the thing about mud, sisters? You know the thing about mud, brothers? It's purifying. It's a detoxifier. So we take that which you give us and we turn it into something. That's what we did during slavery. You gave us your scraps. You gave us your leftovers. And when you gave us that, we did something with it. Why? Because we're original people. We are creators. So we can create anything out of nothing. Because we were created out of no thing. So whatever you give a woman, she'll make it greater, brothers. Trust and believe that. So when, I always wondered why Minister Farrakhan would talk about the prophets as coming in the guise of a woman or the feminine aspect. You know, what would make a man of God? And he described the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as being like a mother, as being like a woman in love with a man. And so we can take it from an immature level, or we can look at the spiritual side of it. And that's why I took the time to go down this, what is really feminine? What really is genders? What is masculine? What does that look like? And so Sister Wakiti talked about the love of a mother. We in tune, Sister Wakiti, because you didn't talk to me about this. And so when God is raising a prophet, that prophet has a duty to nurture that nation. But see, when God raises up a prophet, he has to search for that prophet like a man searches for a woman.
Look at that. Look at that.
He has to study and find who is that right person to be able to help that nation. And we can read all in the Bible where the black man has been in bondage. There's no other person on this planet that has been in bondage like the black man and the black woman. The Jews can say that all they want and think that they are the children of Israel, the children of God. No, that is us that the Bible talks about. But all manner of things have happened to us to destroy who we are as a people. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad knew that when he was reading the Bible, because he came up in a very, very religious environment. His daddy he come from a line of ministers. He was in that Bible. He knew that Bible backwards and forward. But he had a different bent, a different perspective, a different mind when it came to that word of God. And so as he was reading, having that feminine quality, the one of empathy and the one of compassion, as he was reading what was going on in the Bible and abuse that the slaves encountered, he knew that it was us as a people. And so when God brings up a man to run a nation, he has to be like a mother unto us. And a mother, she goes through that labor process, right? The seed is planted. But before the seed is planted, she has to have that fine, well-made man, right? And she has to know that that man was made from Allah. And that man, his garment was clothed by Allah. Everything about him was Allah. Because remember, we're enveloped, we're veiled, we're hidden. But then he has to pursue us. And so when he pursues us, and he, women, we go through the courtship process here in the mosque. You brothers can't come directly at the sister. In the world, you see something, you go conquer it, you get it. But because we're dealing with God's woman, you have to approach it in a certain manner. There's some obstacles that you have to go over before you come get to this woman. But first you have to qualify yourself for positions awaiting you, right? You got to qualify yourself. And although we don't stop a brother, from inquiring about a sister, we thank Allah for our student captains and us, on the male and the female side, because they'll ask, brother, are you able to produce? Are you able to protect and sustain and maintain? Do you got a driver's license? Do you got a job? So there's a wall in between us and them. And it's set up that way because we hold high and revere this woman of God. So then the man comes and he woos you. He jumps over this hurdle and he woos you. And in his wooing, he's trying to make you fall in love with him. What books are you reading? Oh, I'm reading that one too. Oh, you know what? I would like such and such, and that's all you have to say is this one time, and he'll make it happen. He'll communicate with you. You don't have to think about whether he like you or not. He's creeping through the back door. There's another sister he interested in. No, he makes sure that you know that he's in love with you. And then there's no one but you. And then you let your guard down. And you accept his advancements and his invitation. And then you get to know him. Right? And then he qualifies himself for your hand in marriage. And if you notice, what do men do when they get engaged. They get down on one knee. One, they come bearing gifts. Sister Waikiki, your love language. They come bearing gifts. But that gift that they bear is a promise. It's a gift of a potential covenant. And then they bow down. They submit themselves. They humble themselves unto you because they know that they are going to their second self and that they're not complete. And in order to elevate as a man, they first have to go into a prostrate-like manner before that they can rise up to become one. And then they become one. And we are taught in marriage that just because you get married, you're not automatically one. There's a process and a journey to get to being one. So you have the desire to be one. We're working towards being one. So marriage is half of our faith. It's half of our faith. It's a struggle. It's a struggle to be one. But then when you become one as man and woman, then there's this seed that's planted inside of you. And women, when we love a man and we're so in love with a man, we want to go to death's door to bring that baby back. We want to replicate that man. We want life in us that reflects you. And we'll give up everything for a man, won't we? We'll give up our life, whatever track that we were on, because we were so independent. We don't need a man. Let a well-made man come along. What a word of God and a revelation of God in him. Let that man come along. Let that strong man of God come along and be the God that he is and exert that power and that force. We'll shut down shop in a minute. Because whatever we was doing, it was only helping ourselves. And we couldn't further ourselves if we can't take what he's given us and transmute it into something else. So then we let that baby grow inside of us. And now, as mothers, we have to have that knowledge of motherhood, of what being a mother is. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad hated ignorant women. Minister Louis Farrakhan, he hates ignorant women. We are implored that we learn and we teach right along the side of man. Again, because 75% is with us. How can we bring in a new civilization if we are ignorant and we are savages? Because we are going to bring in the Jesuses and the Moseses and the Abrahams. And we can't do it as an ignorant woman. Not in this world. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that when he first met Master Fard Muhammad, he fell in love with that man like a woman falls in love with a man. He nursed from that man for 3.5 years, almost 3.5 years from that man, night and day. He didn't want to be himself. He wanted to be like his father, be like the God. He wanted to reflect back to this man, his love for him. So Allah impregnated him. And when I say Allah, I'm meaning Master Fard Muhammad impregnated him. He gave him a revelation. He gave him a mission. He gave him a mighty word. And he let it gestate. And then he left. He had to step back. But what he gave him, this material that was inside of him, it was so strong. And, as a woman, he gave it to him. What did the messenger do with it? What did the Savior do with it? He took it and he created something so powerful, so magnificent, that there's nothing else like it on the face of this planet Earth, and there's none other than the nation of Islam. But it was the feminine side of him, that love for the master, that was able for him to allow it to manifest itself in us. Because I promise you, I wouldn't be standing here before you today. Because if you look in the world, no woman is, in the Baptist church, we don't get on the rostrum. Although we're the first teachers and the first guides of our children, how dare we get on this rostrum and speak to the man and the woman of God? We're relegated to a low position. And it's just not in Christianity. It's in Islam as well. But we got a new teaching. Because a man loved another man so much. But then you had another man that he was waiting And he was looking. And he too saw the state of the black people. And he knew a Savior had to arrive. And there was a man that he was looking for. And when he got that invitation, he knew what he was looking at. And as a woman who looks at a man of God and wants to help that man of God and be that help meet and help him meet his mission with Allah, that's exactly what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan did for Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He wasn't trying to be better than the messenger. He didn't want that role. He wasn't competing with the messenger. He didn't want that role. He wanted to be, as a woman or as a child, obedient. And as mothers, you know, when we have that rebellious child, it doesn't matter what that child does. If we're in love with that child and in love with that man, it doesn't matter what he does. We still got their back. And when you look at the black man and the black woman here in North America, we are some rebellious people. We are rebellious. Our homes are broken. Our organizations are broken. Our educational system is broken. Everything about us is broken. But he's come to give us life and to give us it more abundantly through the feminine aspect of Allah, through mercy. Because if we look at some of the things that we're doing now, let's not talk about what we've done. We fill ourselves with the guilt that we don't deserve the mercy and the grace. But we know that Allah is what? He's beneficent and he's merciful. And the minister, he takes on the same countenance of being merciful and beneficent. Because he gets more flack from us than he gets from that world. Because for years after years, he stands up here giving himself totally unto us, like a woman gives herself to a man, like a mother gives herself to a child. And he's trying to rightly guide us out of our waywardness. And for that, we love him. And for that, we love him. And we thank Allah for coming in the person of Master Fard Muhammad. Yes. We thank Allah for raising one among us to teach and lead and guide us. That is none other than the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we thank Allah for his student, for that child he produced from his mental loins and from his spiritual heart. And that is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So, brothers, that's how you have to pursue Allah. You have to pursue Allah like the messenger pursued Allah. You have to be like a woman because he's pursuing you, but you just don't notice. Sister, you ever had a man pursue you and you just missed all his advances? Because you was focused on the wrong man? And then you see your sister with the man that was pursuing you, and you see how great her life is? Sierra and Future and that, okay. And then you had to go through some things. You had to go through the fire unnecessarily. But it was necessary. Because trials are necessary for purification. That's right. And he didn't just make one good man. He's raising up millions of men. Sisters. But before we can be in a position to see this beautiful black man, to see this Khalifa, to see this vice-general, then we have to get in our place and understand our value and understand our worth. Get out of our biology. Know that there is nobody next to Allah and he is sufficient. And that the way he made us magnificent. And it wasn't on accident. And it was for his glory and his desire. And it was to expand and not decrease. So we have to clothe ourselves with the righteousness of Allah. And brothers, study the woman. Study her. Because when you study her, you're studying yourself. And when you're studying her, you're studying God. Didn't your mama want you to win when you was little? She wanted her baby girls to be all cute and beautiful, dress her up, her sons to have the freshest clothes, right? Starched. And whatever position she was in, whatever zone in life she was in, she did the best she could. And if she couldn't do the best, it's because somebody else had her mind. And it wasn't God.
That's right. That's right. Teach. That's it.
That's why we're taught to honor our mothers and our fathers. It is not just your physical mother and your father. The Quran says let me get the scripture here. It says to lower our wings. We need to lower our wings to our parents. Because, as we grow up, we get strong and they get weak. And we think that we're better. Although we're supposed to be the improvement on the design, right? The 2.0. But we have to honor our mothers and our fathers. And it doesn't necessarily mean the physical mother. Because some of us don't even have a mother who bore us into this world and stayed. Some of us, mothers died on the deathbed. Some of us, foster care, were adopted. Some of us can't even conceive or bear children physically. But that doesn't mean that Allah won't give you your heart's desire. I grew up in foster care. I was taken away from my mother, and I always had a desire to have a relationship, a feminine relationship, a maternal relationship. But I didn't have that with my mother, and I accepted that. But now as I am a mother and I come into these teachings, I have bonded myself to my children through these teachings so that they can take what I have learned and be an improvement on the design. And then, as Sister Waikiti said, to honor your mother. And we're told to honor our mother, to honor our mother, to honor our mother. To honor the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, to honor Minister Louis Farrakhan, to honor those who gave birth to us, who struggled, who labored, who cared for us, and who love us in spite of ourselves. So in closing, sisters, as I told the brothers, study yourself too, because when you find out who you truly are, you walk in a whole different way. And you begin to manifest more in your life on an exponential level. And the frequencies that you once had, they become elevated. And you're able to help this man. And without the woman, you cannot elevate no higher than where you are. And a nation cannot be elevated no higher than it is. And it all starts with us. And so it's not just about teaching an individual, because we're not criticizing and we're not competing and we're not putting the man down, because that's the individual thought of a man. That's just in his nature. But it's the woman's thought and the woman's nature to be all-encompassing, all-enveloping, so that you can have life and have it more abundantly. So I thank you for your time.
Great job.
Praise you to Allah.
Great job. Great job.
Praise you to Allah. And I pray to Allah that what I've said today has gone into your spirit, into your soul. I know it's a lot of information, so I just ask that you watch this all over again. And again, just study these teachings, because these teachings will allow you to soar and will allow you to be who God says that you are. At this time, I would like to bring up this beautiful man of God. And I always call him a well-made man. But he has a lot of feminine qualities too. This is not a punctified man either. There's a strong man of God. And when you hear him and when you see him, you know that this is a strong man of God. But this man of God, he has empathy, he has compassion, he's nurturing. And he loves us like the minister loves us. And we know that sometimes we can be his wayward children. But he loves us in spite of ourselves. And he's been with us for over 30 years. And we pray to Allah that he continues to stay with us, because he is going to help us develop and grow. And that is none other than our beautiful brother, our student regional minister, Dr. Abdul Muhammad. Now, let's give him a round of applause. Yes.
Takbir. 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 Let's give Sister Sadiyah a round of applause. Come on now. All praise is due to Allah. We can do better than that. Thank Allah for you, sister. We thank Allah, and we want to make everyone know that is visiting with us today that, that we're not being patronizing. Saying, oh, well, we give a sister, we throw the sisters a Sunday. This is really, I admonish all of us to go over what she said today. That's right. And I don't know, you could hear my mouth back there bearing witness to what she was saying. It kind of brought tears to my eyes because I began to realize that, I remember when you first accepted the teachings and I shook your hand and did acceptance, sister. And I told you, I whispered something in your ear, and I see manifest in you what, as a teacher, all of us, as we just left Minister Farrakhan, and let me stop what I'm doing right now and bring you greetings from the Honorable Louis Farrakhan of Assalamu alaikum. I will, thank you. We've entered a very critical juncture right now. And it's very important, brothers and sisters, that we tighten up the house. And there's nothing better for one who aspires to follow in the footsteps of his teacher, a master teacher, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He's a master teacher because he was a master student. And as you and I attempt to be better students, and as a student regional minister, to see someone come up and to represent the teachings like Sister Sadiyah did today, it makes my eyes water up. Because we all are trying to make a bid for immortality. And we know that if anything should happen to us, then there's somebody that can step in and do the job. None of us are indispensable. There's only one who's indispensable, and that's the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because he was seen in the mind of God thousands of years ago. Now, I want you to understand that this beautiful black woman here, this mother, this wife, this sister attorney, this sister soldier, lady leader, and woman warrior, is really represented us today, and we look forward to more sisters stepping up. And I also want to thank Allah for, Sister Camilla, I was back there listening. I didn't know, I had to pull back the curtain and say, who's that? Our babies. Then my sister Wakiti, what a beautiful soul. Beautiful soul. Now, I just want you all to kind of promise yourself, don't promise me, because if you break your word now, I don't want to be disappointed, but promise yourself that you'll come on time, because you miss so much when we come late. So do your best to come on time. When the meeting opens, be here with your guests and come and be on time, because everything that Sister Camilla said, she did such a job. I was just, oh my God, what's going on here? Then also Sister Melva's daughter. Oh, like, you know what? This is like a tag team here. So look, sisters and brothers, we have to now develop our youth and our women, and this has to be a whole team spirit. So young brothers, y'all get ready, because I don't know if we're gonna have Youth Sunday, because that would include, we'll have to have some young FOI Sunday or something like that. And y'all gonna have to know the teachings and get up here and represent also. That being said, brothers and sisters, how many of you are visiting with us for the first time? Is this your first time ever being out with us here at Mosque 45? Anyone? Here, this is your first time? Thank you for coming out. Thank you. You're welcome. Whether it's your first or your 1,000th time, how many of you believe what you heard today to be true and good for God's